BD5 Pilot with you on Sunday, April 14th. This is my birthday, so I'm out here getting some work done on the plane this morning, and then we're planning a nice dinner later on with my wife and family. As you can see, I have the engine removed, and what I'm working on is mounting the gascolator and the autopilot servo for the aileron, the control rod one. You can see I've designed it for the alignment won't bind up, and I can run the full range through there, and they're both measuring about 1.25 inches from the center line of the aileron control tube, as well as the autopilot controller. So that's a similar throw on both sides, well within tolerances for that Garmin unit. What I've discovered, I've already made one backing plate here, but this still moves around a little more than I like. So I'm going to make a larger backing plate to go on the other side and try to stiffen that bulkhead up a little bit so that gascolator doesn't bounce around. You'll notice I made the plate for the aileron autopilot servo much larger on the on that side. And you can also see from underneath how I tried to make a flush arrangement for the drain plug on the gascolator. So fuel sump checks will be an easy thing to do on this aircraft. The wing units, let's see if I find them there. They're right there. So inboard on both wing at the trailing edge, which really works well if the aircraft is resting back on its tail, which the shorter version, the original BD5 design that doesn't have the 5.2-inch stretch, does have tendency to like to sit on its tail because that's where the weight and balance turns out. My CG is just a little bit behind the main gear, so if I'm not sitting in the aircraft, there's nothing that holds that nose down. And you can get a view from this side, so you can see that the way the control tubes are going to line up when I hook that up. But I will make a backing plate for this, but this, of course, is much more solid in its mount. So if I make a little larger backing plate, I think for the gascolator, I'll solve that problem. And no, I haven't worked on the elevator, the one that's going to be utilizing the cable to actuate the elevator autopilot. And I'm going to save that one for probably next week. And I'm going to try something here to see if it works. I'm going to see if I can take and operate the control so you can see what's the travel of that aileron control tube as it goes through its range. So I'm only dealing with that kind of travel to make that aileron autopilot work. And now we're back looking at the engine, and I had a talk with, I believe it's David Yoakum. If I'm saying your name wrong, correct me, about fabricating the piece to fit on here, because this is a different size, different 6-bolt pattern. It's a little bit smaller than what is in the aircraft. So the rubber donut that I've got won't work, and we need to make a smaller rubber donut for here. And the thing I need to have fabricated for this part coming off that basically drive shaft is I need a pulley assembly. So I need a pulley that's basically matched to this alternator, because this alternator will operate just fine up to 10,000 RPM. And so with this engine turning 6,000 with the prop and possibly a little higher in some dive conditions when I take some pressure off the prop, I need that to run the pulley down to the alternator, down in between these two exhaust headers, and have that part fabricated. So he seems to think, David seems to think there's no problem with that. I'm just getting the dimensions to him so we can make sure that works. And I'm not going to know the final drive shaft length until I get all the other work done underneath here and then start working on the motor mount so I get the exact measurements to the millimeter of what that engine placement's going to be. I have to say my BD5 Pilot page has been growing quite a bit since I've got the engine and started doing some work with the placement of it. So I appreciate everybody's support and comments. And yes, there's a few of you that had some great ideas on some mods or things that I needed to do to make this all work better. So keep those comments coming. BD5 Pilot's out for now.